What makes a hero when everyone's watching and judging in real time? James Gunn's Superman 2025 opens on a world that already knows the S-Shield and has already formed an opinion about it. Clark Kent isn't learning what he can do, he's testing what he should do, moment by moment, in a city that runs on headlines, hot takes, and high-stakes emergencies. This recap is your spoiler-safe runway. We'll map out the setup, characters, tone, early conflicts, and key themes that power the story, then stop well before the late-game reveals. No final plan, no last-minute twist, just everything you need to enjoy the film on your own terms. Format check, this is a guided primer, not a tell-all. We'll outline who Clark is when we meet him, how Lois Lane drives the narrative, how Lex Luthor frames the public conversation, and how Metropolis and the Daily Planet function as the arena where truth wrestles spin. We'll touch the first wave of crises, the political echo that follows every save, and the way other heroes complicate strategy without spoiling outcomes. Think of this as the pre-mission briefing you'd get in the bullpen, clear, practical, and pointed, ending before the point of no return. A fully formed Superman tries to serve a city that can't decide if it wants a god, a neighbor, or a news story, while a spotless public intellectual argues that unchecked power, even benevolent, is the first step toward disaster. Clark arrives competent and composed, the opposite of moody omnipotence. As Superman, he's a stabilizer, containing damage to escalating chaos and choosing restraint over spectacle. As Clark, he's the kind of reporter who listens twice and writes once, trading gotcha quotes for context that holds up tomorrow. His central conflict is whether he can lift the thing, it's how to carry the weight that comes after the lift. Jurisdiction, politics, and unintended consequences. The cape is power, the glasses are accountability. The movie keeps both in frame and lets the push and pull do the drama. Lois isn't a passenger, she's propulsion. She chases the story that matters even if it's inconvenient to friends, bosses, or public mood. Her superpowers are timing, verification, and a compass that points to the public interest. She understands the difference between a narrative that flatters and a truth that serves. The film gives her real agency. She sets terms, negotiates access, analyzes risk, and treats Superman as neither myth nor mascot, but as a subject whose choices have civic consequences. Her relationship with Clark is built on competence first, chemistry second, trust that has to survive deadlines and disasters. Metropolis is a living thesis, optimistic, vertical, fast. The Daily Planet is its conscience with a printing press. It's also a workplace comedy in miniature, editors arguing over verbs, photographers angling for vantage points, interns learning the difference between a lead and a lead. The newsroom sequences matter because they're about power too, who decides what's news, how it's framed, and how fast it mutates online. The planet's credibility is a plot device and a moral barometer, and Clark's bylines carry as much weight as his airlifts. Lex sells anxiety as a product and control as a kindness. He speaks in white paper certainty and boardroom charm, positioning himself as the adult in the room while he reframes Superman as a variable to be managed. His pitch is simple: systems over singulars, policy over miracles, predictability over personality. He doesn't need to be right, he just needs to sound inevitable. The film lets him be persuasive enough that reasonable people might agree with him, which raises the stakes of every debate Superman doesn't enter, and the ones he does. An early, large-scale crisis forces Superman into visible action. The save works, but the aftermath is messy: jurisdictional turf wars, budget arguments, and televised panels litigating the ethics of intervention. The question is, did Superman help it? Who gets to define help next time and at what cost? This is where the story plants its flag. The mechanics of heroism are clear, the politics of heroism are not. Metropolis is split between gratitude, dependency, skepticism, and fear of the hypothetical. Some citizens want an emergency number with an S on it. Others want a city that doesn't need the number. Talk radio arguments and viral clips translate every save into a referendum on sovereignty. The film makes space for one uncomfortable truth: even perfect outcomes don't end debate when power is asymmetrical. That's the oxygen Lex breathes. The most interesting arguments happen inside Clark. The reporter in him values process and transparency. The rescuer in him values time and triage. Newsroom ethics say verify then print. Disaster math says act now or lives change forever. The movie lets that friction land in choices about when to show up in a cape, when to pick up a phone, when to write the piece, and when to sit one out. Small decisions, word choice in a headline, a recorded quote, a withheld detail ripple into policy and public mood. Other heroes appear, enough to suggest a living world with more than one way to help. Each cameo comes with a philosophy: some favor preemption, some deterrence, some diplomacy. Their presence forces Superman to articulate his lane and his limits. Team-ups are tactical, not fan service checklists, and the movie uses them to contrast leadership styles without nomming a right one. We won't cross into late act plans. The interest here is in the negotiation, not the result. The camera keeps returning to people who aren't on posters: transit workers, nurses, families navigating evacuation routes, kids who paint the S on cardboard and wave from rooftops. The set pieces read clearly because the film roots them in logistics, where the crowds flow, which bridge carries what load, how to stop a chain reaction without creating a worse one. The point lands: spectacle matters because lives do, and precision is a moral choice. Lois follows money, influence networks, and missing footnotes. She doesn't wait for villains to monologue. She reads filings, checks timestamps, and treats anonymous sources like radioactive material useful, dangerous, and never the whole story. The closer she gets, the more she has to decide what to print now versus what to hold for corroboration. Along the way, she and Clark negotiate boundaries: what he can tell her, what she can ask him, and where both of them draw the line between civic duty and personal safety. Lex's case is seductive because it's tidy. Replace ad hoc, personality-driven saves with scalable systems. He talks about insurance rates and infrastructure bonds, about relocating risk from a single alien to robust human institutions. What he doesn't advertise is the price: consent traded for predictability, freedom for comfort, accountability flowing upward instead of outward. Superman won't convert fear into a subscription model, and that disagreement is where their conflict lives, long before anything explodes. The film treats Clark's heritage as context, not destiny. References to Krypton inform values: stewardship, responsibility, humility, without turning the story into a scavenger hunt for Easter eggs. The focus is forward: how to live among people when you could live above them, how to be local when you can hear global, and how to accept that doing the right thing rarely looks perfect on a spreadsheet. Early action sequences showcase a thesis: strength used as a scalpel beats strength used as a hammer. You'll see geometry-driven chases, rescues that prioritize collateral math, and moments where Superman chooses to slow a disaster rather than win it for the cameras. We are intentionally stopping before any late act reveals or tactics that would give an outcome away. What matters here is the style: efficient, readable, and purposeful. Jimmy's optimism is a tone engine. His camera catches context others miss: who's holding hands behind the barricade, which official is curiously off mic, where the crowd looks when Superman says nothing at all. Around him, the Planet staff is written like a team that's good at its job: copy editors who save stories, desk editors who ask the annoying necessary question, and a publisher who remembers the paper's mission when the ad team gets nervous. In a world with a flying man, the most dangerous force might be the algorithm. Clips mutate meaning as they bounce through feeds. Intentional miscaptioning turns caution into cowardice, restraint into weakness. The Planet fights with reporting, Superman fights with conduct. Both are slow weapons in a fast information war, and the film understands the frustration of doing it the right way when the wrong way gets better engagement. They set rules because they have to. Professional boundaries and personal care can't be improvised in the middle of a crisis. The protocols they agree on: what gets shared, what gets embargoed, who gets protected, are as romantic in their own way as rooftop confessions. The tension isn't will they won't they, but can they keep the thing they've built when the city makes more demands tomorrow. Around the midpoint, a discovery reframes earlier chaos as partly engineered rather than random. Thread A connects to Thread B in a way that narrows options for everyone, raising the cost of doing nothing and the risk of doing the wrong thing. We stop there. No nomming of culprits, no outline of the plan, just the acknowledgement that the board shifts and that good faith will be tested in public. The film's thesis isn't might makes right, it's might bears weight. Strength is the discipline to absorb impact, the humility to share credit, and the courage to pick the boring, better option over the flashy, worse one. Hope here isn't a vibe, it's a habit: keeping your hands open when fear tells you to clench them, telling the truth when spin would buy a quieter day, and making yourself finite in a world that wants infinite from you. The rooms get bigger, microphones multiply, and the decisions affect more than one skyline. Alliances strain, bad actors get louder, and well-meaning people disagree on tactics. We won't cross the spoiler wall, but it's fair to say the stakes rise from immediate rescue to systemic choice. The film keeps a tight rein on what it shows and why, landing emotional beats without hiding behind chaos. Gunn's take is bright without being soft, and humane without apology. The action is legible, the jokes relieve pressure without puncturing stakes, and the character work carries decisions that could have been mere plot. The costume and production design read as hopeful modern rather than retro cosplay. The score lifts without insisting. Most importantly, the movie knows that Superman is not interesting because he can do everything. He's interesting because he refuses to do everything he can. So where do we leave you? With a city that's learning, a newsroom that remembers why it exists, a villain who argues with graphs and wins converts, and a hero choosing to care out loud even when it costs him. We've traced the runway, signposted the pressure points, and left the final approach for you to experience. No last act reveals here, no closing gambits, just the path that makes them make sense when you see them.